Hey guys, it is Tasha. Welcome back to my channel. Today's date is July 14th, and this is your first actual Curious Conversations Monday recording. And I want to talk about Curious Conversations Live. I birthed this baby out pretty quickly, and I learned some things. What Curious Conversations Live, initially what it was, is we were in person, and I threw open the doors and we all met in person, and people submitted questions, and then people in the house also asked questions, and I got to really open up my claircognizance and speak to some of the questions and just provide some sort of illumination of what's going on, because that's my gifting. And then as others responded back to that, it was just an open dialogue, an open conversation about musings about what's going on in our experience of reality. And so a few things I learned were, first of all, next time we're going to do this sucker online. I'm going to stream it via StreamYard, and I think we can reach a lot more people because hybrid sucks. I was a one woman show, and that's just the way I do things. I tend to just like jump off. Like, there's two ways to get into a swimming pool. You can dip your toe in and just slowly acclimate to the water and see how it feels and how deep you want to go. Or you can get a running start and just cannonball that joker, right? Or jump off the diving board or whatever. I tend to do the latter. I'm just passionate. It's my Aries heart. It's just what I do. Anyway, so we're going to do live online for this next coming up Curious Conversations live. And just see, I'll play with that. I don't know. I'm going to be back here next week before then. And if I think differently, then I'll update differently. So there's that. And then the third thing that I have my notes here. The third thing that I have here is my energy. Goodness gracious. When we are talking about really high consciousness information, switching tracks that quickly is challenging. And I didn't know what I didn't know. So when I do talks or whatnot, or if I'm on a one-on-one conversation, we're on one like trajectory, and I can go off the sides or whatever, but primarily we're just on one level of consciousness between me and that person. But in a room of a bunch of people, a couple of people, this person asks that question, they ask that question, she asks that question, he asks that question, whatever. I can handle it. My mind, it works pretty quickly. I'm 0 degrees Mercury, like my Aquarius, eighth house, 0 degrees Mercury. Anyway, I have a very rapid way of thinking. My mind processes very quickly. But switching my retainer, switching tracks so quickly, switching energetic tracks is just new for me. So I got to figure that out. And I'm sorry, I don't have to figure that out. That will be figured out through me as I have more and more experience. So that's where you come in to keep asking the questions. Hopefully you can just show up on our live and just type away. Or, of course, all in this description, I will list the link to the ongoing open question, anonymous question link to submit your anonymous questions. Anyway, coming down to why we are here is someone in the house on Saturday night asked a little bit about, can you tell me a little bit about the divine feminine versus the divine masculine? And I spoke to it in that moment, but I will say, because of all of the technology issues that I was having, I was rattled, and I don't love that. When I was a facilitator, it was like nothing new on game day, right? And since I couldn't get any of the things to work online, I was rattled. And so I answered, and she was satisfied. The person who asked the question was satisfied. But then I felt like I wanted to unpack that a little bit more. So I jotted down a few notes to really round out this divine masculine, divine feminine thing. If you're in the spiritual world, you've heard about divine feminine, divine masculine, and we're going to talk about that. And sure, it is a body. It is feminine, masculine, man, woman, whatever. We're going to talk about that. But honestly, where we start is it's an energetic expression, okay? Just like in other languages, I'm speaking English right now, but in other languages, some of their words have genders. Similar idea. This is an energetic expression of of where we are, what dimension we're in, what density we're in. So we live in the third dimension, in the 3D. In order for things to be 3D, there has to be two things to a balance, right? Just like our atom has a negative and positive polarity. This is the dimension of polarity, the third dimension. is a polarity. In the beginning, there is light and dark. Separated the light and the dark, right? Light, dark, plus, positive, minus, whatever. You see what I'm saying? Masculine, feminine, good, bad, life or death, everything. There's these polarities, this duality. So when we're talking about divine masculine and feminine, again, we're talking about density. So what's happening is our planet, in our galaxy, in the universe, we're always rotating and orbiting, right? And what would do us well to understand is as we rotate and orbit and all these things, we're actually spiraling upwards, because there's no upwards in space, but like we're actually spiraling into less and less dense realms. So we're going from the third density on up, fourth density, fifth density, sixth density, and as we get lighter and lighter, we get closer to the everything. We become more and more one and unified into lighter realms, so to speak, of density. So as we're ascending from the third dimension up to the fifth dimension, the realm of density into unity, the realm of duality into unity, we start to come into balance. And so that's where we go to the individual. I am a human and my brain works. I have a left hemisphere and a right hemisphere. I have my logic and my intuition. And what is happening is we are all evolving. As we're all evolving, we have the opportunity to know that we are evolving and coming into balance. And as we come into balance, we don't rely on 1 + 1 = 2, because that's logical. But 1 + 1 can also equal 3. 1, 1, 1. 1 + 1 is 2. 1 + 1, and you put another 3. Right? Like we can kind of like open this up. We can open this up. So not everything makes sense, and that's by design. So as our souls have come to this earth in this density, we all agreed to come down, to come into density, come into human form. Our souls are in human bodies, and the way that our atoms spin and everything is there's a polarity. And so things are vibrating and shaking and moving. As we're ascending, we get to heal ourselves from the inside out. And what that means is ensuring that our logic is not overriding our intuition. Ensuring that we are living a unified within a unified existence. So I plan my course, but the Lord determines my steps, right? We have a measure of control, so to speak, with our logic, but then there's also this ethereal thing that doesn't make sense, the thing that keeps beating our hearts until the day that it doesn't. So I find my ease and my rest in knowing that I'm not going to know everything. There are some things that just have to be felt and experienced. And in so doing, we start to combine our inner logic and our inner intuition, and that's inner union. And as an individual, I reach that state of that whole brain synchronization, then the brain and the heart start to work in tandem. And this is proven. It's called heart-mind coherence. When we're in the place of heart-mind coherence, and we access that actually when we meditate, when we pray, when we're very mindful, when we are at rest and not operating from fight or flight or hyperstimulation, but when we are at rest and when we teach ourselves and when we allow ourselves to evolve, but then also consciously make steps to remain at ease on the inside, that actually affects our auric field, our toroidal field. And so we send out these energetic waves all the time. So if you're hyperstimulated or if you're regulated, emotionally regulated and grounded, you're going to send out different frequencies. Okay? So as you find your peace and you allow yourself to heal the things that keep you in defense or that keep you separate on the inside, in mind first. As you come into inner union, and this is an experienced thing, you can't think yourself there. We experience it. This is shadow work. This is why we do the healing. This is why we look at our relationships and we look at the fruit that our life is producing. And we wonder, we get to approach it with curiosity. Is this the life that feels good? Does this feel good? Am I in alignment with my heartbeat, with what I want, with what I dream, with what I desire? Am I making steps to be the best me that I know how to be? And again, as we live from that place of self-sovereignty, we will continue growing and all this stuff. But then at that point, we start to magnetize our external counterpart. Now pause. The original question was, can you talk about the divine feminine and the divine masculine? Yes, I'm getting there. But each individual has an energetic, for the most part, an energetic like majority. So for me, physically, I was born a female. My physical body is primarily feminine energy. My energy, my internal energy is androgynous. Okay, honestly, like everybody's androgynous. But I have more of an innate femininity about me. So as I reach my state of inner wholeness, for me, that's rest, that's receptivity, that's knowing that I have a divine counterpart out there. I have a masculine. There is a man created just for me. I desire masculine. I desire the penetration. I desire the protection, the provision, all the things. It just feels good to me. And my preference, and based on my astrological chart, is very traditional. And that's why I get to share the message of this dynamic polarity. Because listen, we're going to talk about the gray areas, right? And the non-binaries. We're going to talk about that. But as I'm at rest and I know and I'm okay, as a feminine, I don't slide into the activity of chasing to find my man. So let's pause the feminine and let's go to the masculine. That man out there is healing himself. He's finding his issues that he's had. He's allowing each chakra to be cleared. He's allowing his energy to be healed. And he may not even have conscious awareness that that's what he's doing, but I'll get there. But what he's doing is he's healing his life and he's walking in his integrity. He's breaking chains that have held him and his family and a lot of the masculine line for generations. We are in this world right now to be generational curse breakers, and there are curses being broken through that man. Because he is polarity, or his dominant polarity is masculine. So his provision is activated. As the feminine finds her rest, the masculine has no understanding, but he's just prompted from this like gut instinct to provide, to protect, and to penetrate. And do you see how we work together? And we're just going to talk about biology because we know how babies are made. There's a receptivity on the part of the female, and there's a penetration on the part of the masculine. We can go down those avenues. We're not going to go there. But when we're talking about the divine feminine and the divine masculine, in my understanding, the divine part is when you in yourself have reached inner wholeness. When you in yourself have reached enlightenment. And you don't have to go necessarily to enlightenment because we are always, always, always expressing our energy. It always is happening. But people want to use this information to manipulate their life. And until you consciously know the tools and the keys on the playboard of this game of life, you can't consciously plan your next step until you know. So what happens across the board is that we all still magnetize our counterpart on the level of divinity that we are at in that moment, at that level of consciousness, at that level of healing. There are people who keep magnetizing the same type of person because they're not overcoming that lesson. And the issue is, again, divine. Where does that divinity happen? When we stop looking outside of ourselves for the reason of why we're single, or the reason of why we can't find love, or the reason that we're not happy, all the things, we become satisfied in ourselves. And at first they say, self-love, get it? Sure. But when you are not chasing, you have broken all codependency in yourself. And you study up, read up on attachment styles if you have an issue here. But when you're able to get to the place of that healed place, you in yourself are, this is what they mean by divine. We're all divine, okay? We are all souls having human experiences, and every last one of us, our role is to transcend the limits of humanity, of your own human nature. And we're all on a journey. Okay, everybody's everywhere, right? There's no better or worse here. We're on a journey. But as you know that you've been feeding the matrix of reality with your fears and thoughts by projecting all of your attention and energy outside of yourself, you're breaking the connection to who you actually are. So we break the connection on purpose and go inside and find who we are, and we sit there. And then the masculine gets activated to go. The feminine knows, and she radiates. And the feminine receives it spiritually first. And that's where the divine feminine aspect comes in. It's a priestess. One who knows and allows energy to be worked through her, through partnership in this regard. And the masculine, same thing. And when they come together, that is the external manifestation of what has already done on the inside. So as my inner feminine and masculine balance, as my inner logic and intuition, my inner left brain, right brain, as I'm in balance, and as my mind and my heart start to operate in a coherent state, do you see the balance? And we meet in the middle of our expression. When we balance our energies, first in this 3D realm, first in the logic and the intuition, when we are able to reconcile that, and that's where religion always led us wrong, if we were taught to outsource our power. And that's what religion does. It puts another God outside of you. But when you know that the God that beats your heart, that speaks to you, that when you go to that God in prayer, you go within, and when you're able to reconcile that and sing love songs and worship songs to yourself and mean it both in earnest, that's when you know your level of divinity. And you've arrived to that divine nature. And it's fleeting. But the beauty of it is, and again, we're here to break these chains, the beauty of it is religion kind of taught us how. And there's nothing wrong with that. But where we now are in evolution is that we now don't need to outsource our power, because we are becoming, we know we are evolving, we are becoming less and less dense, more and more divine. And there is a surge of Christianity, metaphysical Christianity, that's helping to make this make sense. And I'm going to start talking more and more about that, because I am affiliated now with a couple of different, I'm representing me, but I am connected with a couple of different organizations that are literally saying the same message. And there's nothing wrong with Christianity or the church or whatever, but there's a lot of us free thinkers that are waking up that never really just jived with what it was. So anyway, I'm kind of going off. Divine feminine, masculine. As we bring it together, we become more and more divine. So you can throw stones. You can toss me up on a cross if you'd like. But Jesus and Mary Magdalene were twin flames. Twin flames are the divine masculine and the divine feminine in union. Well, they're already twin flames, but they're together. It's a shared soul expression. We're all twin flames. We're all one. But when you come to individuation and you start talking about the oversoul and all these different soul like levels of understanding, and as far as our incarnation, we're to the point now where there are some humans on Earth who are fully embodying the divine feminine and the divine masculine, and they're being magnetized together, because where we are is the world is changing and shifting. The matrix is collapsing. The physical 3D world is collapsing. And so the unity of a divine feminine, an embodied human who knows and it has their full divinity embodied in their flesh, like Jesus taught us, and we all have access to that, but that conscious awareness and that embodied living from that position, living from the fifth dimension at least. And when two of those humans get together, it sends shockwaves. Remember I talked about the auric field, the toroidal field? Yeah. So that's the union of divine feminine and divine masculine. Now let's land the plane. We are all divine feminine and divine masculine. We are all promised to unlock the gifts that we have inside us first. You got to go within. You got to go within, and you will go within. The more that life around you starts to collapse, you will be like, what's happening? And may you find peace as you do that. Because you're never going to find peace outside of yourself. And it sure as hell won't be in your counterpart. It has to be in you first. Otherwise, you will reject and repel. Because when you flip a magnet, you know how it is. So anyway, I have no idea how long I've been going because my notes are here up 20 minutes and 12 seconds, 2012. Isn't that funny? Ooh, my head's itching. Got the crown chakra lit up. Anyway, I was going to say when I opened up, my energy was low, and it is, and it was, and whatever. It's just kind of feeling super steady. Saturn is retrograde, and I'm a Capricorn sun, and I'm like Saturn. So I'm just feeling steady today, and I'm going to play with that later. Anyway, there's a lot of crazy movements going on, but again, I'm going to land the plane there, and I love you. Thank you for joining. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. I am like ready for 100 subscribers. And stay tuned. I don't know. We're just going to keep having fun. Oh, yeah, no, I'm not going to say that. I love you. Bye.